Back on the right stand, ladies and gentlemen, with this focus right in the neighborhood where this entity is fast hurtling towards balkanization because it's on the brink of absolute chaos. There's not just civil conflict, the clouds are darkening. There are riots in several Pakistan cities. It's an absolute state of anarchy. The fundamentalists are running riot. There is hardly, education has gone for a toss. Civil society just doesn't know which way to turn because there's nothing more civil about it out on the streets. It's absolute political turmoil. There is calls for removing the Prime Minister, removing the Home Minister, removing the ISI man, or else, says Imran Khan, on the meantime, this man, Imran Khan himself, has got no credibility left given the realities of who he's been associating with and where his loyalties lie. Imran's aides are warning revenge attack. There is conflict over the new army chief. At every level, the state Pakistan is in absolute flux. Is it on the brink of anarchy? Let's try and understand. There is huge fear of civil conflict. There are signs of impending collapse of the state, institutions. Imran's mayhem threat is out there. He's called out and he is actually rabble-rousing, and rabble-rousing in the name of deen. That's what he's doing. And he's trying to use that and trying to match that along with justice and try and see if it gets purchased. They have tried to politically milk this entire, as they call it, an assassination attempt on Imran Khan's life. Although there are many who question that version. Meanwhile, there are threats to remove the Prime Minister, Home Minister, the ISI man, or else this ISI Major General who's sitting in Islamabad and calling the shots. That's what they are alleging. They're threatening big consequences if sackings are not done. There are key Imran aides who are going around threatening revenge over this attack while the long peace march was going on. The political turmoil continues to spiral. Ruling PMLN has rejected Imran's call for early elections. There are other aspects which are coming to the fore where the government is now going to deal with Imran Khan's long peace march and protests. There are confrontations that are coming through that threaten the entire democratic process, or whatever that fledgling democratic process, the charade which is there. Allegations, conspiracies. Then going forward, there is also more conflict which is around over the new army chief. Who will be appointed next? And will that person be appointed on merit, or will it be Bajwa's man, or will it be Bajwa who will muscle through and another extension void all constitutional norms, or will he force himself further? Imran, in the meantime, has abandoned the push to sway selection altogether. He's backtracked on that front. A recent corps commander meet was indecisive. General Asim Munir may be made the army vice chief to avoid any conflict. So they'll create two heads now. Will that avoid conflict or further add to the confusion? All these aspects remain. Absolute state of anarchy in Pakistan. Why should it matter to us? Oh, because they're next door neighbors. All of that is going to spill over. Some act of desperation or idiocy could hurt Bharat. Lieutenant General KJ Singh, Army veteran, defense analyst, joining us. Barrister Ali Tahir, Pak political analyst, should also be with us in a bit, and Dr. Tara Karta. So let me ask General KJ Singh, how would you see this current situation? Is it something where it happens once in every 5-6 years in Pakistan? Would you brush it off like that? They will still continue to exist? Or do you believe this time around the situation is a little beyond that, little more than that? It's a cause for worry.
Anand, Jai Hind. Good
sir.
to be back on your show. Basically, what is happening in Pakistan is imploding destruction of various institutions. It's so worrying that in our neighborhood we are seeing this open kind of a defiance on the streets, civil unrest, and we can say that Imran was removed. It was not a very fair thing but he was actually made also in a similar manner when he was, it was attributed to Khalai Makhluk, the army which had hoisted him up there. So when he went out, he's taken on this Hakiki Azadi March. And in the process, unfortunately, all institutions are being destroyed. We've seen a drama in Punjab where Hamza Sharif tried to be the chief minister and then he had to be replaced by Parvez Alahi. The army itself has got its hands very dirty in this process. Because if you remember last year, Tehreek Pakistan march was sponsored by army. So when you sponsor such marches, you give vent to fundamentalists, then the same thing is going to come back and bite you. And that's what is playing out in front of us. Imran Khan, who is, it's so surprising. He is a man who spoiled the relations with USA and even China.
Yeah.
And then economically, Pakistan was in such a mess. They were on FATF grey list. And here he comes back and he fights not 1, 2, but 6 elections.
Yeah.
And he wins 5 of them.
Yes.
So how does Pakistan public take such things? It's very, very worrying. And actually, despite the fact that we can draw some comfort from the fact that Pakistan is not doing well, but it should not be in a state of anarchy. So there is a need on part of everybody, including army and other institutions, to resolve this. You can't allow democracy to come out on streets and we have these kind of marches. And here, see, I am also worried on one thing. In my perception, the attack on Imran was probably done by a maverick only. Because the army would have done it very professionally. They wouldn't have given him a chance.
No, they would have
eliminated him like...
It's a sad state of affairs that any maverick, if I were to go by your version, can walk out on the streets and shoot at anybody. And it also happened in a state that is being governed by the PTI and its ally. Dr. Tara Karta is with us and Barrister Tahir also with us. So let me ask you, how serious do you see the situation, or do you believe this happens every 5 years, 4 or 5 years? So it's just the same story repeating itself. There is a flowchart, very popular flowchart that runs around the intelligence agencies, which says that the army creates confusion, comes as the solution provider. Then again, there is a cycle of perceived democracy in Pakistan. Then again, the army gets in, the military establishment gets in, creates a situation of flux just to maintain its relevance and importance. Would you agree with that, Ali Tahir, or do you believe there is perhaps a tipping point now where the people will say enough of the establishment's meddling? Democracy in its true sense deserves space in Pakistan. Is that possible?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, thank you very much for having me back on your show. And you know, I would love to be on your show for the reason that it is never a shouting match. I always come in and learn something from your guests and always come in and give my point of view as well. So very respectfully, I would say that I would not agree with the analysis that has been made so far in the show. We are not at the brink of collapse. We are not at the brinks of anarchy. I am in Karachi right now. I've just finished a jurisprudence class. Everything is normal. Everything is calm. Of course, there's some political heat that's been stirring up for quite some while now. And there's a lot of polarization in the society. There's no doubt about that. But otherwise, the institutions are strong, and I think that these institutions will be able to control the situation. Now, I would quote Winston Churchill here. Winston Churchill, when England was going through the worst of the German bombardment, he said that until the courts of law in my country are working, we cannot lose. And if you look at Pakistan right now, the courts are working, all the other institutions, including the Election Commission and including the armed forces, are working. However, we do not in Pakistan. We've not had a very good history with the establishments meddling in Pakistani politics. And we did legally, theoretically, we in 2007, our Supreme Court brushed the army back to the barracks when they refused to obey the orders of the military establishment. And since then, of course, there has been a particular fight between some political factions with regard to the role of the establishment in this in the politics. But I do hope that everything that happens in Pakistan will happen according to the constitution and according to the law. The situation that we are in right now was a result of a no resolution confidence being submitted against Pakistan's Prime Minister, which was a constitutional way of transfer of power. And right now, the institutions are simply stating that if another party wants to come into power, there can only be a constitutional mode of transfer of powers. This is not a Pakistan that is in the 1970s or 80s or 90s anymore, where another institution would come in and make
forcibly
a coup
take
and take
power
over the country. Neither is it in the sort of a position.
But there are reasons, Ali Tahir, which experts who are watching this region carefully, saying that there is a reason why the establishment is not moving to seize control, and they want this entire aspect of democracy to prevail, because all other funding sanctions will all stop. Any kind of help from any powers will stop the moment there is an exert of martial powers and martial laws imposed or a forceful takeover happens. But how are situations developing? I totally agree. And I'm happy that you're saying things are calm in Karachi. But Sindh is different. Karachi is different. What's happening in Islamabad, what's happening in the Pak province of Punjab, it all emanates from this region only, this Pak province of Punjab. And there has been a regional conflict on that aspect. The politics also differs, and it's the Sindhi parties or parties from Sindh who are actually posing a challenge and who are right now in power. The PMLN, the PPP, all of them find their origins from Sindh, from Karachi, and the dynamic is quite unique there. But let me just go across to Dr. Tarakarta and ask: would you say that it's a state of flux? It's hurtling towards anarchy, or would you say that this will resolve itself like it usually does in Pakistan?
No, in part I would agree with what Mr. Tahir says, is that, the images of crowds and everything tends to get enhanced on the media, right? So you tend to get a view that things are out of control when they're not. But all the same, there is a fact that we have never seen this kind of violence and this kind of outright criticism, name calling of the army. And let's face it, we may not like it, but the army has been the most stabilizing force. In Pakistan, stabilizing, quote unquote stabilizing. Now the present problem is that one force which seemed to be holding this together, if that is eroding from within, which is what we are being told that there is a break, there's a difference of opinion within the army. There certainly is a difference of opinion between retired officers. If that is happening, that is dangerous for Pakistan. And plus, I would assume that, I think about a third of the country was under floods. This is no time to do political violence. I mean, if we are talking of, Nawaz Sharif, the whole question of choosing an army chief, he hasn't had much luck, has he? He's chosen, I think, 5 out of 10 army chiefs and really had a pretty bad time after that. So I think from this point onwards, what they're going to have to do, they're going to have to choose the senior most and be done with it, because this kind of violence is partly to do with the belief that the army, rightly or wrongly, that the army has been, as he said, has been interfering too much in Pakistan's politics.
No, they've been trying to make a move that the entire political wing of the ISPR should be done away with. The other aspect is the moment General Bajwa got that extension of 3 years, he paid or rendered ineffective the careers of nearly 21 lieutenant generals. So the numbers could be plus or minus, but there are a lot of disgruntled army personnel who believe that they couldn't get their moment in glory, and they were denied what could be their due. So it all comes back to a knot as far as power and economics is concerned. So, Dr. Tarakarta, KJ Singh ji, and also Ali Tahir, thank you very, very much. I have run out of time, so I'm going to cut this conversation, but we'll closely watch what's happening and take this forward later through the course in the coming days. Winding up the right stand on that note, Zaka, ready with brass tacks.